Hey, welcome to Downloaded. This is the show where we gather the most opinionated voices in the tech field. Today, focus all that energy on the stories that are impacting the tech world. I am your host, Jim Lauterbach. Joining me today, I'm happy to have Shannon Morse from Hack5. It's awesome to have you here. And Seth Rosenblatt, also awesome to have him here, senior writer at CNET.
Hi.
Now, I just found out that you guys were actually at DEF CON hanging out at a pool party together.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
What? Oh, okay, it's secret. Sorry. We're not going to talk about secret DEF CON
What happens
things.
at DEF CON stays at DEF CON.
Apparently not. When you guys go to DEF CON, okay, so you go to DEF CON, which is the hacker conference. Do you guys actually, like, when you show up, do you turn your phone off and just leave it off for the whole weekend?
I don't. Yeah, some people do. Some people like take out the battery. Some people even bring a throwaway phone just because they're so paranoid of it. But personally, I don't.
You know, you like
I don't care.
Shannon Morse, living on the edge. We'll have more about hacking later on in the show, but I want to start off with really the big story of the week so far. Blackberry For Sale. They're turning, I mean, these guys were innovators. They created the whole ability to do well, they didn't create it, but they're the ones who made money at the whole ability to do wireless email and do it anywhere. They're great phones. I love their keyboards. Who's going to want this thing? Seth, let's start with you. Who wants BlackBerry?
Not me.
No, well, you don't think it's going to go anywhere?
Well, I got to ask you, you love their keyboards, and you're asking who's going to buy this? I mean, I think right there that tells you everything you need to know about BlackBerry. They've been out-innovated.
Yeah.
You know, their saving grace is their decade-old keyboard. Really? I mean, this is what we're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. Shannon, what's your take on this? Is BlackBerry have a future here, or is it just a...
You know, I like the fact that we do have another competitor in that whole field of, you know, iOS and operating systems for phones, especially because, you know, we have the Ubuntu Edge that might be coming out, probably not because it's not going to get financing.
Yeah.
We have
Firefox
Apple.
OS is out, though.
Yeah, Firefox OS, that's a really cool one. Ubuntu Touch is also out that you can download for free. So it's nice to see another one out there, but given the fact that BlackBerry doesn't have a lot of range of apps, they don't have a whole bunch there on their phones, I just don't see it working out for them.
For a while, there was a rumor that Microsoft was actually going to come in and try and buy them for a lot of their corporate stuff, because they do still have a big play in corporate. Right. Do you think that's still on the table, or is that not even off?
I could see that happening. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a Monday announcement that Microsoft was buying them purely for the business customers, flip them all over to Windows Phone. You know, the Windows Phone 8s aren't bad. I've used them a little bit. They're interesting. They're a different take on the touchscreen OS. But BlackBerry itself, I think it's dead.
Yeah, I was looking up and reminding myself of BlackBerry. And remember their creative directors? The people who are supposedly setting the direction for the company. Will.i.am first, well-known tech entrepreneur. And then Alicia Keys, also a well-known tech entrepreneur.
Oh, yes.
Setting the direction for the company. And this to me is an example of a company that I think even as much as 4 or 5 years ago lost its way. It was a great corporate product and said, we want to be hip with the kids. So let's get Will.i.am and Alicia Keys and have these people try. And they did concert tours and all this other stuff. I don't think it ever moved the needle.
No.
Whenever I see a celebrity trying to invest in some kind of company like this, I start thinking, oh, there it goes.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Yeah.
I wonder, any other vendors on the phone side that you can see that are kind of on the BlackBerry path?
Ew.
I mean, it's the BlackBerry path.
I mean, you know,
the
place where mobile is growing is in the developing world, and this is why I think Firefox's Mozilla's strategy with the Firefox OS may actually work. I think there's a lot of things against it. It's got an uphill climb, but it may work because there's only 2.5 billion people on the web, and the next 2.5, everyone is saying, are going to come from developing countries, and they're going to be accessing the web through smartphones.
And mobile.
And so Firefox may take off in those places. It may find a developer niche here, but BlackBerry, where are they going? I mean, there's no real, that's not where businesses are growing. If you want to talk about business and mobile growth, I think it's, you know, small consumers who are flipping over into doing some kind of entrepreneurial thing where they need a slightly more powerful device. Feature phones aren't going to cut it anymore.
Shannon, what about building your own phone? I mean, you guys at Hack5, you're always building new stuff. You're always pushing the edge. I know there's now the ability to go out and, I can like sort of build my own, but I'm not like a Swiss watchmaker.
Yeah, I could solder it together myself. No, personally, I could never build my own phone. Well, I shouldn't say never, because I can learn how to build it, but that would take lots of time and lots of legality hoops that you would have to jump through to get the cellular service. So overall, I think that would be extremely complicated.
So the market of building your own phone is not going to develop like the market for building PCs.
Exactly.
It's not a hobbyist market.
The parts are too small. And if you think about it, the market for building your own laptop never really took off either. It's really only the towers where the parts are large enough where you can swap them in and out.
Darn, I want to roll my own phone. All right, well, another thing that's getting rolled, this thing called the Hyperloop. Elon Musk, who I got to say, I think Elon Musk is a modern day industrialist. I think he's done amazing stuff with Tesla, a bunch of other things. But this Hyperloop thing kind of sounds interesting, right? It's a tube and you sort of, I think it's like a blow dart. You go, and you can blow from San Francisco to LA in what, a half hour?
Right.
Great concept. Seth, is this thing going to make it or what?
No.
Okay, thanks. Moving on.
All right, so we're done with that topic. Moving on. All right, so the problem with the Hyperloop is that it faces many of the exact same problems that high-speed rail faces, and high-speed rail is much further along in solving those, at least in California. I'm a big advocate of high-speed rail. I used to live in Japan, love taking the bullet train. Bullet trains are very successful in Europe as well, in China too. And one of the reasons that in California it's had a difficult time is because the geography, the topography in California is very treacherous, especially on the San Francisco to LA route. You have the San Miguel Mountains just north of LA, and crossing those was a challenge for I-5 when they built just that, that road there. We're not talking about train tracks, and we're not even getting into a tube. There's earthquake issues. And while I love that people got excited about transportation, I love that Musk had that impact with the Hyperloop. I really wish he would spend more time talking about developable technologies that are in progress.
Yeah, Shannon, what's your take on the Hyperloop? And it sounds like a cool idea, but is it going to work?
Yeah, it sounds totally awesome. I would love to take this. I travel between LA and SF all the time, and this is like one of those dreamboat ideas that isn't going to happen until after I die, most likely. But I would love to see it happen. However, I think Elon Musk's idea, I heard the word $20 being passed around for ticket sales. $20 per person for a one-way ticket? That's amazing. I mean, I would definitely take that over a plane, but would it really cost that little by how much it would cost to actually build this thing?
Well, look, he's talking about the economics, and we'll talk about California now for a minute. The economics of about, what, $6 billion, I think, and it was, what's the cost of doing high-speed train?
The high-speed rail is 68.
68. So,
wow.
And it's down. Originally, it was priced at 92, 95, and they actually they lowered the price in the first time of public works projects ever, from the 90 whatever to 68.
It'll go back up again.
It'll probably go back up. The Bay Bridge redo, was way over budget. But that's what these things are. You have to get them started. And then once people realize that, all right, we've built enough of this that we can't stop now.
We can't stop, right? Well, and at $6 billion, one of the reasons why the price is so low is because he's thinking about running it on the highway, along the highway, the median strip, because it's really just a tube. Yeah. I don't know if I buy that either.
I don't buy that. And the difference, one of the things that I think is bad about the Hyperloop and that's very good about high-speed rail is that high-speed rail has stops. Now, this may not strike people as very interesting in the Central Valley, but the fact is that it's going to change the way that people commute in California. No longer is it going to be a problem to live in the Central Valley and work in LA or San Francisco. Those areas are going to become bedroom communities. People are going to drive to the high-speed rail station, they'll get on the train, they'll go to one of the two hubs where they have to work, and instead of driving for an hour or an hour and a half, and I know people who drive 3 hours into San Francisco, which is mental, you'll sit on a train, you'll have a much more relaxed time, or it'll be, like a Google shuttle, and you'll be working on the train like everybody else.
Well, we see that on the East Coast now with, as they've increased the speed of the rails between Washington, D.C. and New York. A lot of people live in Philadelphia now, and people did already, but it's a lot easier to live in Philadelphia and commute, or live other places and kind of commute in New York. You're a big fan of high-speed rail, obviously, here, and a big proponent. But back to the Hyperloop, I was just worried about heat dissipation here, right? You got something going that fast, right, in a tube. There's a lot of energy, and I'm not a physicist, right? But there's a lot of energy that has to like go somewhere.
Yep.
How's this thing gonna stop?
It's like being on a roller coaster.
I mean, I love the idea of it. It's a railgun for people.
Yeah.
Just shoot them to LA. Great.
This sounds so dangerous in so many ways.
You know, when he first talked about it, I thought, I don't know if you guys have read Infinite Jest, but there's a scene in this novel, the David Foster Wallace book, where it's in the near future, and in the Northeast in the U.S. they are catapulting their garbage into Canada. And that's sort of what I thought of when he talked about a railgun for people. It's like, oh, we just shoot them and hopefully they get to where they're going.
Yeah.
So there's
They'll
this
bounce. It's
No
okay.
doubt. Exactly.
There's this great video I'm running here. We'll put a link to it so you can watch it. But it's these guys in Taiwan that do animations of stories, of news stories, and it's just hilarious. Elon Musk's Hyperloop, hyper cool or overhyped. I think it's a little overhyped, although there is an open source angle to this, right? He's giving all the plans out, he's giving everything out, saying, you guys go out and do it. And he actually said he might go out and create a test version. Maybe it's like a mini version. Maybe it's a Hyperloop for
Little
rats.
prototype.
You know what would be great? It would be great to see in places that are very flat, that have a need to cross vast expanses of nothingness. This could be a very big thing in Australia if you're trying to get from Perth, on the west coast of Australia to Sydney or Melbourne. That could be interesting. Or if you're trying to go from northern Australia down to Adelaide.
Or Chicago to St. Louis, for example, a 5-hour drive.
Right.
Right? That's pretty
exactly.
flat.
Exactly. If you could do it like that, and then show that it would work, I think that the California terrain is really, really difficult to do this on. Even high-speed rails face problems getting land rights and other standard problems when you're developing big public transit projects. I don't see how Hyperloop could succeed here. Other places, sure.
So, Shannon, I think Elon Musk has done great stuff, like PayPal, but definitely SpaceX, Tesla Motors, Solar City. Is the Hyperloop just some sort of wacky thing that's just going to be a blip on his career? Or are we going to look at it and be like, that Elon did great stuff, but then he came with his Hyperloop thing, it was all over?
I think, I mean, I have my issues with PayPal because, just read my blog. I have issues with them as a seller. I hate them. But Tesla, SpaceX, Hyperloop, I mean, they're really, really good ideas. Hyperloop's a really cool idea, but I think that what's going to happen is years and years and years from now, somebody's going to come up with a new envisioning similar to Hyperloop, and we'll look back on it and think, wow, that was a really good idea. I'm glad he came up with that.
Right, at least he
Let's
pushed the
work
envelope.
with it.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Although I will say, love the whole battery-operated car thing. SpaceX to me is the most amazing thing because he's commercializing
awesome.
space.
Yeah.
Sending spaceships up that are commercial, that aren't government. That to me. All right, I love science fiction. I believe in a brighter future, but I just think that's amazing.
It is. And it's funny, getting back to DEF CON and Black Hat, the computer security conferences, the second day keynote, the first day keynote was Keith Alexander, and he got heckled, and that was one thing
Who's
entirely.
Keith Alexander, for those people who might
Oh,
not know?
the NSA
director.
chief. Anyway, so the second day was the guy who came up with the idea to have the sky crane delivering curiosity to the
Brian
Mars surface.
Muirhead.
Yes,
I
Muirhead.
have information at my fingertips right
Thank
here.
you. Somebody's
Thank
got
you,
to.
computer.
Somebody's
there you go.
got
Go ahead.
to.
Sorry, I just want to pull up the name.
Thank God for the internet.
Go ahead. So he was saying.
So he was talking about how they came up with the idea for the sky crane, and it was the sanest of a stack of crazy ideas, and it worked because it solved it solved a problem in a very necessary and specific way. It was a small solution. It was kind of loony, but it wound up working because there was no other way to get around that problem. The thing with Hyperloop that's exciting and disappointing is that there are so many other ways that we've figured out of dealing with this problem. It can work, possibly, maybe, sometime in the near future. The fact that he thinks it's only going to cost $6 billion, I find to be like maybe in construction materials.
I don't know. What? I'm holding out for
but the idea
Star Trek transporters. That's I think
the idea
best thing to do.
of the captivating, brilliant leap. That's what I think everybody loves. The fact that this is probably never ever going to happen is
you bring this up. You know what this reminds me of? Remember, and I don't know if you guys remember, but like Dean Kamen and the lead up to the Segway.
Oh God!
Oh my God! It was going to change the world,
Yeah.
and I remember
It did.
I
It
think
changed
I was
malls
at Tech
everywhere.
TV at the time, and we were all like, "Oh, it's going to change the world." And nobody knew what it was, but it was going to revolutionize transportation. Everybody got so excited, and then it was just a child scooter that didn't fall over.
Right.
So nothing wrong. I love the Segway. Don't
Yep.
get me wrong, but it's not. Wasn't the big breakthrough that we all thought it would be. So let's move on to our next story. Now, that Viacom has said that they are going to be putting their cable channels on the PS4 as the beginning of a new pay TV plan. It's really the first time that we've heard any of these sort of virtual operators come with a really big, one of the big 5 or 6 television operators. And it's not necessarily an a la carte way because it's still the bundle. It's the beginning of the service. But I think it's really interesting that this is the first sort of non-traditional multi-channel bundle service that we're starting to see. And we're seeing it on the PS4. And I'm kind of surprised by that, Shannon, are you?
Yeah, I was really surprised. Honestly, what I would prefer is for Sony to just give me some kind of internet ability to watch the Viacom channels. I think they have like MTV, Nickelodeon, a couple of other ones.
Comedy Central.
I don't want to necessarily be tied down to a PlayStation 4, because what if I don't have that? I won't have the ability to watch this? That's no fun.
Yeah, well, I think, look, it's an advantage for the PlayStation 4, but doing one of these services that really just delivers it without a multi-channel service, cable or satellite, I think it's really interesting. And
this is great for cord cutters like me.
Yes. Right. Well, maybe you'll buy a PS4.
Yeah, just for this reason.
Right.
You don't want a PS4?
You know, I actually do.
That,
I probably want to buy one for my fiance back at home because he's going to love the thing. But to be honest, it'll probably cost less in the long run for me to purchase a PS4 than it would be to buy cable.
Yeah, right.
So I'll just do that.
Seth, do you see this as a transforming event in television, or is it just like...
This is baby steps. This is Viacom looking at things and saying, how can we go about this in a very cautious, safe way? Meanwhile, people are torrenting shows right and left. Show sales are going up. The DVD sales are skyrocketing because shows are getting torrented. Doctor Who took off in the States, 5 years ago or whatever it was, 7 years ago, because people were torrenting the show, and then the BBC woke up and said, "Oh my gosh, maybe we should, have this aired in America so people don't torrent it." And I just think that the cable companies are so far behind the curve on this that they're fast becoming irrelevant.
So, are you afraid of, let's say this takes off and people buy? Are you afraid that the cable companies, the cable operators, who basically provide the cable modems that serve a lot of the households, they're going to look at this and say, "Oh, you've got a PS4 and you're not buying my service, but instead you're buying channels via Sony and it's going to your PS4. I'm slowing that down."
Let's throttle you.
How many people are we talking about? I mean,
how many people subscribe to Netflix?
Yeah, but how many?
20, 30 million?
Yeah, but how many people are buying PS4s and are then going to sign up for the Viacom package?
How many? I mean, look.
It could be 20 or 30
millions,
million,
right?
It could be, but I suspect that it's not going to be that high because people already have ways of getting their shows the way that they want them, which is single serving.
You know what's funny is unless this really picks up and we have something other than those few select channels that Viacom has, I don't think that I'll buy into it because I have those other options like Netflix, even channels like CW on their .com site. They put things up the day after it airs. So why should I pay for cable?
Right.
But then you have companies like Comcast who, if you call them and argue the amount you pay every month to go down, eventually they'll ask you to have cable just for free.
Yeah.
And I think it's to boost the cable different channels, the sales and the subscribers.
Well, so look, you're a cord cutter or a cord never. I'm not sure which, and I don't really care. You don't pay for cable, but what do you pull together for your television? Do you subscribe to Netflix?
Netflix, Hulu, CWTV.com, and then whatever other .coms that I have to use, whatever those might be.
Would you consider Area?
Yeah, I would consider that.
To get that, so I mean, that might
Definitely.
give you the CW, so you don't have to go to CW, you could get your shows that
That'd
day
be nice.
instead of the next day. But you'd have to pay $8 a month for it or something like that.
That's okay.
It's
only $8.
What if you got a PS4 and they said, "I'm going to give you Comedy Central, forget Nickelodeon, until you have kids." I'm not going to say you
If I had the option to choose my own channels, then yes.
But what if you could get it for like $3? We said, I'll give you Nick, I'll give you Comedy Central, and I'll give you, I forget what else, MTV. I'll give you MTV and VH1 for $4.
I watch Comedy Central, so
see, Jon Stewart,
$3, $4
$4, $3 or $4
I'm okay with that.
Then you get rid of Hulu.
Yeah.
right?
Then you don't need Hulu.
What about you, Seth?
I don't know.
Seth isn't paying for anything. He's done.
No.
The real one
I
I
don't
want
mind
is
paying at
HBO.
all. I think, look, I think things like paying for HBO Go are great. But you have to subscribe to HBO to get the app.
Exactly.
And who wants to do that?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, and thank you for both of you for talking about HBO. I didn't think about this until then, but HBO, in order to get HBO Go in the US, you have to have a multi-channel subscription service.
Yep.
What if you could do a multi-channel subscription service of 4 Viacom channels for $4 and then get HBO for $17? Then you essentially get
for that.
HBO for $22
Yeah.
a month.
I would pay for that.
Yeah, that's the killer app.
Well,
we
you see,
got it.
This is the whole problem. The big picture is that people, the channel movers and shakers aren't thinking about this in this way. Or if they are, they're not talking about it in public and people aren't aware of it. And people are saying, I just want to get my one show and get it now. I want to get my Breaking Bad season 7 or 8, and Netflix did that, and people are happy. And the fact that the channels are so far behind on this, I think it's going to wind up hurting them.
Well, I think in the end, as we've seen through the disintermediation of all media through the internet, is when consumers find a way to get stuff and what they want, in the end, they end up getting what they want.
Exactly.
By hook or by
true.
crook. And so we'll see what happens there. I think the other interesting part of this question is what's Microsoft going to do? So the PlayStation 4 has definitely stolen some of the thunder from the Xbox. Xbox One, I think, was kind of picking it back up. They made a lot of good moves over the past few weeks. Now the PS4 kind of ratcheting into the lead here. Do you think that Microsoft is going to announce their own multi-channel service?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And the thing
I
is
hope
that
so.
Microsoft has deals with other, or has a history of deals with other vendors. So something like that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I think what's interesting is that this came just after we got word of the Time Warner CBS
That's a good point.
kerfuffle in New
Yep.
York.
Yeah.
That's where this is interesting, because if you have enough people doing TV through other providers, through non-traditional providers, then something like whether or not Time Warner Cable carries CBS, my gainful employer, it's not going to matter.
Well, and the CEO of Time Warner Cable has said that he foresees a future at some point where they might not sell multi-channel bundles, right? They might just sell cable modems, and you get your TV however you want, and they get out of that business of dealing with.
A la carte would be great for them. I mean, I think the original reason for bundling things has become obsolete, and I think that's what the real problem is here.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit on play devil's advocate, because the nice thing about a bundle is you pay a small amount every month, and you get a number of channels, a wide variety of things, where if you had to do individual contracts with everyone you want, it's a pain in the butt. You got to set it up. You got to pay each one. It'll probably cost you more. So that there are advantages in the bundle, but Sony's trying to make a new bundle. Maybe it's a different type
I mean,
of bundle.
there can be advantages to a bundle, but how many of those channels do you use? My parents have 500 channels and they watch maybe 10. You know.
Yeah, look, I have DirecTV. I still pay for DirecTV, and I don't watch a lot of those channels. I watch a lot of the sports channels, but that's about it. I would do the sports-only bundle personally. So, interesting story about Viacom. Let's go. I promised we would talk about hacking, and I want to talk a little bit about it now, particularly through the story that came up about a baby monitor in Houston. A couple of parents had a baby monitor, video and audio in the house. Their 2-year-old, and all of a sudden they started hearing somebody going through the baby monitor swearing and saying nasty things about them and their baby. It turns out somebody hacked the baby monitor and just started spewing through it. This is a pretty outrageous story. Shannon, you believe it happened, and it's pretty easy, right, to do?
Yeah, especially if you have an IP connected wireless camera. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
I mean, legally, it was in a controlled environment, so I was able to control everything that was happening. But this has been going on for years. So I don't really understand why all of a sudden, like, all the big name news companies are like, oh, this is hackable and you can do this and it's scary.
Look, it's a baby and it's swearing.
It is a baby, yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, somebody has infiltrated the creche with the baby. And it's just, I mean, that's why this is a good story for local TV.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a good story, and I actually had one of my friends, David Kennedy, Dave Relic on Twitter. He was on Fox News discussing all the different ways that you can protect yourself from this happening on your own wireless.
Okay, so how do you
Wi-Fi
protect
camera.
yourself?
Well, he went through like 4 or 5 different ways, and I don't have them all memorized. But
Yeah.
the main thing is, change your password as soon as you get a new router and
Yep.
IP camera, because they're set with something stupid like admin
Yeah,
or
right,
1,
right,
2, 3,
right.
4. And make sure to change that to something very hard. Even add in like spaces and make a full sentence. Do something over like 8 password characters, because that's ridiculously small.
I think the thing that is a broader issue here, though, is that pretty much everything connected to the internet is ultimately hackable. Seth, you were there at DEF CON, hacking cars.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all kinds of things. And I think actually, but before we get onto cars and
Sure,
and
no, I know you had something to
pacemakers
say.
and- Yeah,
Go for it. Go for it.
People don't understand that your Wi-Fi router is hackable.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hackable, and I've written about this a lot this year. It's hackable to the point where you are not safe connecting to public Wi-Fi, because you connect to, let me set up the scenario. You connect to some public Wi-Fi in Starbucks or the airport or whatever. Those routers are so vulnerable, especially once you're connected. Once you're connected to that router, they're very easy to get into the admin panels. There are cross-site scripting attacks, SQL injections, all kinds of terrible things that you can do to get access to the admin panel. Once you have access to the admin panel, you then have access to all of the traffic that's going through that router. It doesn't matter if you're encrypted or not. That traffic is there to be exploited, which means that they can then get access back to your computer.
Well, and Shannon, you guys do this with the pineapple for Hack 5, right? I mean, you guys have this pineapple that I know you sold 400 of them at DEF CON, and you can go up on the Hack 5 site, I think, and buy them if you want. But
can,
basically
yes.
doesn't matter the middle style attack, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it does. So basically, when your computer sends out a access point probe request
Yep.
to a router that you already know, say you call it Jim's home router or something
It's called
like that.
GymNet, but yeah.
GymNet, okay.
Well, I
so
shouldn't have said
so
that.
your computer
The
connects to
password
GymNet.
is ABC.
No, it's not.
If I put a Wi-Fi pineapple within range,
Yeah.
and you send out that request for GymNet, it'll reply back and say, "That's me.
That's
I'm
me.
GymNet.
Hi.
Connect
What's the
to
password?
me."
Can you tell me the
GymNet.
password?
Yeah,
Hi.
tell me your password.
Yeah.
It's super easy to use, and surprisingly, lots of companies actually use those devices to help protect their own networks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, there's nothing wrong with selling the device. It's just using it in ways that shouldn't be used.
Disclaimers.
But talking about everything hackable for a minute, I mean, you could hack a car. You can hack. I mean, we've got smart meters going into houses.
Pacemaker.
Pacemaker.
I mean, Barnaby Jack
Barnaby,
sadly
yeah.
died right before DEF CON, but he was all set to have a BOFO presentation on making a pacemaker explode. And 2 years ago he did this incredible presentation on how to hack an ATM. He brought up one of these corner store ATMs that you find in a 7-Eleven or wherever, and he had it spewing fake cash on stage.
It's amazing.
And he was standing 10 feet away from it when he made it do that. The fact that anything that's Wi-Fi connected, and pacemakers are increasingly Wi-Fi connected, so that they can send their status and your health status to the doctor's computer. These things are all hackable. People, and really not people, vendors need to be much more aware of how
Yes.
vulnerable their technologies are. And as we get closer and closer to a ubiquitous Internet of Things, where standard objects, technology objects that haven't traditionally been thought of as being connected to the internet are in fact connected to the internet, people have to be very, very cautious about how they build them. Security has to be first.
I have a great idea for a new company.
Oh yeah,
Okay?
this will be good.
Faraday cage clothes, right? So
Hasn't someone
clothes
done that?
with Faraday cages woven into
Yeah.
it so that nobody can get in. What do you think?
And it comes with a tinfoil hat?
It comes with and they're probably going to weigh like 30 more
antennas.
pounds. So it's actually going to be it's going to cut down your weight too, because it's going to be so hard to move around in it.
But this is actually a thing. You can go online and spend, I don't know, 15 or 20 bucks buying a very fancy custom designed duct tape wallet, which will then prevent any RFID cards that are in your wallet from broadcasting outside of the wallet until you take them out. There are things that people,
See,
I
not-
think,
not
have
such a
to
far-fetched
be,
idea.
No,
Faraday
it's not
cage
at all.
wallets.
No,
See?
I mean when you said that, I'm like, well, yeah, all right, we could do this.
Well, and look, we're going to start wearing Google Glass. People can hack into your Google Glass and start showing you, risque images as you're walking down the
yeah.
street. It could be terrible.
They used our software for that, by the way.
It's already been done. So in the end,
We should talk afterwards.
Let's talk.
let's talk now. In the end, can you protect yourself at all from this stuff? I mean, what do? Do you just not
You
You
can,
just
but
say
you have
no
to
to
be
wireless?
you have to be really adamant about protecting yourself. You have to make sure that you update your router. That's really important. Most people just sit it over there and forget about it. You have
Yep.
to make sure that it's updated
Yeah.
to the most new firmware.
This is such an incredible point. When I was talking with the researchers who did the Wi-Fi router hacking research, and I said to them, "Okay, this is really terrible news. What can the end user do?" And they said, "Well, not really anything."
Yeah.
Because not only do you have to update your Wi-Fi router's firmware, which means connecting it to the computer in a wired way usually, and then doing this manual update. Not only do the router manufacturers not have auto updates for their firmware, which is a huge mistake on their part, but most of them don't even have updated firmware. So even when the researchers notified companies like D-Link and Belkin and a bunch of the others who are going to get upset at me for using their names, that they didn't update their firmware, that they didn't fix the holes that the researchers discovered, they just ignored them.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got a couple of old routers at home that, and I'm always going, it's like, did you update the firmware? Did you update it? Never. You know, the firmware is like 5 years old.
Yeah.
So should everybody just throw out all their existing hubs and replace them all every?
No.
Should it be like when, like every year, you know, you replace the batteries in your fire, in your smoke detectors? Should you just do that every year? Replace your Wi-Fi hubs?
No. But it is important, I think, for consumers to yell at their router manufacturers to have updated firmware, to pay attention to security holes that have been found in the admin panel, and just you have to be adamant. You know, we're in a society where you cannot rely on the manufacturer to care for you. You have to
Yes.
take things into your own hands.
Yeah, no, that whole pacemaker thing is scary. You know, anything that's embedded in your body that's radio controlled that could be taken over is just,
I mean, the metal plate in my head, I'm terrified.
yeah.
It's a joke.
I
Well-
was like, really?
That's all right. This is a safe house here.
Right,
There's
right.
no wireless can get in, so you're good.
All right.
Let's talk about AOL for a minute. So Tim Armstrong was having a fairly in-depth, serious discussion about patch and about layoffs and about some people are going to be losing their jobs. And somebody in the middle of it he started taping it, and Tim Armstrong fired him. It was like the Donald Trump. You're fired. And there was a big hullabaloo, and Tim Armstrong apologized for firing. Didn't get his job back, but at least he apologized.
Yeah, that's great.
What's going on with Tim Armstrong here, Seth? Is he just stressed out, or is there something deeper at work?
You can measure my sympathy for stressed out CEOs, with a millimeter stick. I could not care less about Tim Armstrong's public problems. I'm sure he's a very nice guy in private. I don't give a damn.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, CEOs they're the new lawyers, right? What do you have when you've got a CEO up to his neck in cat poo? Not enough cat poo.
You do know my title of Revision 3, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you're
got any cat poo?
you're a nice CEO.
Well, we did see a cat video. So
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
No, but let's talk about it in general, because I think it's interesting that transparency, that's the kind of thing that I think about on this is every time, think about Yahoo. Every time they release an email or they have a public meeting at Yahoo, Kara Swisher gets it and puts it on All Things D. It didn't matter if somebody was taping this article or not. You knew there would be something about it up on one of the sites within a few days anyway, or a few hours. So should you just assume that everything you do and everything you say inside a company is going to get out at some point?
Yep.
Yep.
I would say so.
But it's interesting because one of the things that the management guru says is just communicate with your staff, tell them everything, make sure they know, trust them. But there's no trust, right? I mean, Tim Armstrong probably doesn't trust anybody anymore, if he ever did.
I've known people in a workforce who will throw you under a bus to make sure that they get to the head of the company.
Yeah, no.
And I've dealt with CEOs in the past that are crazy like that, and they will fire you in front of everybody. They don't care.
Well,
but
yeah, I just think it's reprehensible to do that. I mean, look,
Yeah, it's
you
terrible.
don't do that unless you're Donald Trump.
yeah, that's something that should happen in a private environment with just you and the person, and there should be some kind of written information dating back to the past on that employee status on why they should be fired at that point. At least that's the kind of management skills that I was brought up to
I blame
use.
it on reality TV. It's all Donald Trump's fault. I'm just going to
I
call
was going to say
everything
we could blame it on Donald Trump.
That's what it's all Donald Trump's fault.
Blame it on him.
Blame it on Donald.
I'm going to blame this one on George Lucas.
Oh, good.
Our next story talking about Star Wars, the Star Wars TV show. I know this Star Wars TV has been talked about for a long time, right?
Yep.
Everybody's said, but it looks like now that Lucas has been purchased by Disney, who owns ABC, ABC is talking about putting a Star Wars TV show on. Shannon, do you think this is a good idea? Would you watch a Star Wars TV show?
Well, I don't have cable, so.
Would you download it off BitTorrent?
Well, I don't download things illegally. I'll
What
just
if
put
it were
that out
legal?
there. But if it was legal,
What if
if
it
it
showed
was
up
on the
on
Star
Hulu?
Wars.tv
Come on.
website or something,
Or
or on
Hulu.
Hulu, yeah,
Right.
heck yes, I would watch it. That would be awesome.
So, Seth, you looking forward to this?
Yeah. Who doesn't love the Star Wars universe?
Exactly.
And one of the interesting things is that when it comes to storytelling, as long as you have compelling characters, the universe, the milieu, it doesn't necessarily matter. People want interesting stories. Stories are important. Stories are how we relate to ourselves, how we understand ourselves. We see reflections of who we are. I was thinking, Kick-Ass 2, the movie opens this week, and Jim Carrey made sort of a high-profile thing about how he feels terrible about the level of violence displayed in the movie, and he's not going to do anything to promote it. And I was reading this column by Warren Ellis, the author, about violence, and he made such an important point that fictionalized violence is important for us because we see things in it that we don't like in ourselves. We see our own anger, we see our own depression, our own heroism, and we can see how it is we can improve ourselves. We look at these stories as reflections. They're not just entertainment. And a Star Wars TV series, there is so much opportunity there.
And TV in many ways is better than movies these days, right?
Oh,
I mean,
God,
think about
yeah.
it. There's going to be new Star Wars movies. I almost think Star Wars TV show is better than movies if they do it right. To have that kind of serialized
If they
experience.
do it right,
There were the Samurai Jack animator Gennady Tartakovsky did a Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon, a series of shorts. These were like 30 seconds or a minute long. This was before Revenge of the Sith came out. And there were these very short clips strung together. I think all told it was about an hour's worth. And it just had this compelling excitement about the Star Wars universe. It was the main characters. It was Jedi and clones and that kind of stuff. But I think for ancillary characters, they could really do some interesting storytelling because Star Wars is something that everybody gets. Who doesn't know Star Wars?
And I think the main message for the folks at ABC and Lucas is don't screw it up.
Yeah,
right? You're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Let's have a great series that explores it, that's fun, that's interesting, that makes me want to watch 14 episodes in a row because that's going to be amazing. Let's talk a little bit about Apple. Apple has been in the news this week, both on its stock side and some of the other stuff going on. First on the stock side, Carl Icahn bought a bunch of shares, bullied Apple, told them that they should spend their cash, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. He was able to go in and do that and raise the price. He made like $6 million in a day. Is this fair, Seth?
You know what the difference between a journalist and a large pizza is?
No. What's the difference between a journalist and a large
A large
pizza?
pizza has 48 pepperonis.
A large pizza can feed a family of 4. And what Icahn makes in a day selling or buying Apple stock, I mean, is it stock manipulation? Yeah.
Sounds like it, right?
It certainly does. Is there anything that we can do about it besides report on it?
Yeah. So Icahn's also been known to push CEOs out. Do you think Tim Cook is a little worried right now, Shannon?
I'd assume so. I did read that this is something Icahn's done before. He's been known for this.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot of history about Icahn, but I'd assume that Tim Cook should be a little bit worried.
Yeah. Interesting to see what happens. And look, they're sitting on a lot of cash there at Apple.
Yep.
Right? You would hope that they would do something productive with it. Right?
I'll take some.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll take some.
Just
I
because
don't think that's well. I think it would be productive to give you money, but I don't think that Apple thinks it would be productive to give you money.
Damn.
See, they're not doing their due diligence.
That's right.
We know Apple's got an event coming in the beginning of September.
I want to talk about that too. So tell me about that. So September 10th.
It looks like we're getting a revision of the iPhone. Something is happening. It looks like we're getting gold or maybe champagne colored or maybe mustard colored. I don't know. There's talk about a lower cost iPhone, Apple moving into lower end markets, which is very unusual for Apple.
Maybe they'll buy BlackBerry.
Yeah, right. I think that would probably drive their stock down.
Yeah, I think so too. They've got the cash for it though.
I think they've got the cash to buy BlackBerry like 17 times over.
The other thing Apple did this week is they bought the remains of a social TV startup, Matcha. Matcha.tv. More of a, like what they call an acqui-hire, one of the worst words ever, but hiring the employees. Do you think there's something more going on there? I mean, they say they're serious about TV. They're buying people that do things in the social TV world, but they don't ever do anything.
Yeah, well, apparently Matcha TV is a social platform for people to like share what they've been doing and to gain ideas on what you should watch next.
Right.
Matcha TV apparently will help you figure out what you should watch next. So I think by Apple purchasing this, maybe they're serious about the Apple TV again.
Yeah, or something on the recommendation side, or
Yeah.
iTunes. I mean, I could see them using this on iTunes and say, "Well, you just bought this. You might want to buy this." Or people are
Here's a
talking about this.
recommendation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just bought the Star Wars TV show. You might want to buy old episodes of Star Trek or something like that.
Yeah, they may be interested in the technology for reasons that don't have to do with TV. They could be interested in improving iTunes in that way. TV feels a little limiting for Apple. If they're using that technology, though, for the app market, for the iTunes store, that is something that's broader, I think, that we could see them doing.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in the mobile world is, looks like Samsung, right before IFA, so early September, is going to launch a wristwatch phone. A lot of people talking about the wristwatch as the next mobile platform of choice. I don't personally buy it, and I still wear a wristwatch. I'm one of the few people who does.
Well, apparently watches are coming back.
Oh, are they? Oh, I'm
just
so happy.
based on consumer markets, watches are coming back. Like teenagers are wearing them nowadays. It's something that I never got into. I still don't wear a wristwatch now, but we've been seeing a lot of technological watches on the market.
Well,
So
do you think
it's-
that's the next place for a phone? So don't put it in your pocket, just put it on your wrist.
I don't know how the sound quality would be with that, but and the screen might be a
Hello, I
little bit
can't
too
hear ya.
small. Telephones are getting bigger and bigger. Telephones, mobile
Ring,
telephones.
ring, ring, banana phone.
They're getting so much bigger. How are you going to fit that into a little teeny tiny
Seth,
one?
what's your take on it?
I love
wristwatch phone.
love the Dick Tracy aesthetics.
Yeah.
I love the idea of that kind of of guys in fedoras and so on, talking to their wrists.
Such a hipster thing, right?
Practically, though, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just don't see it working. I see it as an interesting side project, maybe. It's something that a niche market, people who are into wristwatches and fedoras, I don't know. But
Monocles are going to make a comeback.
well, you mock that, but we've got Google Glass.
That's
I mean,
true.
we could get Google Monocle.
Well, that's the other thing, and you think about Google Glass. One of the problems with Google Glass is the battery life, and there's just not enough room for a battery. It's going to last for like all day,
Right.
At least the way the batteries are here. All right, so really interesting. We'll see what happens there. Sign me up to try it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely open to try it. We're going to go cut through a couple stories real quick just to finish up today. First of all, I want to talk about Bitcoin. U.S., New York, cracking down on Bitcoin. This whole Bitcoin concept of a currency that's not controlled by government, really interesting. Governments are scared, poopless. Shannon, what's your take on Bitcoin? I mean, it's a really interesting thing. I mean, the Android phone was hacked, so if you have Bitcoins on it, you could lose them.
Yeah,
but it's an interesting
which is
concept.
scary. I have two sides to this argument. One is from the consumer side, from a buyer side. This is great. This is really cool. Nobody's controlling it. There's no like crazy interest rates on it or anything. You get what you pay for, and you don't have to pay anybody else for that, and you hold it in your own little wallet instead of a bank in the middle, a man in the middle. On the other side, as a seller of products, this kind of scares me a little bit because I do gain interest on what I achieve and what I sell. And on the other hand, I don't know how this is going to keep investing over the course of the next few years. So the Bitcoin that I might have in my pocket that's $104 right now worth, it might go down to like $25, and I don't know.
What's your take on Bitcoin, Seth?
I think that I think that in subverting government control of currency, we are playing with fire. I think it's a very, very risky proposition. I think there's a reason that governments have been the ones to issue currency and not private entities.
So they could do high-speed rail.
Yeah. No.
Another thing, you flip, but I mean that's
joke, but that's
reason.
That's what it's about. And this is one of the things that I hate about economic discussion in the U.S. right now. The government is not like your family.
Yeah.
Your family does have financial limitations. The government can print money, and the government's ability to regulate that is an important function that we don't turn over to a private company.
Right.
I think this is incredibly silly.
So there is an
bad.
interesting aspect of Bitcoin. I spent some time with the head of Buttercoin, who's building a sort of an infrastructure and exchange underneath all of it. And he said, I thought this was great, that foreign exchange is expensive. When you want to go from a dollar to a euro, you've got to pay a percentage or some amount just to do that conversion. He's saying, when you do it with Bitcoin, just take a teeny little bit to convert to Bitcoin, and then so quickly you convert it over to the other currency, and a little bit there, it's so much less, and there's not a lot of fluctuation because it's happening in such an instantaneous amount of time, that in fact, this may be a great way to do currency exchange. So
it may be. That could be a great use case for it, but I think as far as wanting to carry Bitcoins in my pocket, no.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that either. So Pirate Bay came out with its own browser. You know anything about this browser, Shannon? I mean,
I did,
what's the deal with it?
Yes, I've been following it just a little bit. Apparently, Pirate Bay came out with their own browser called the Pirate Browser, and this isn't to make you anonymous or anything like that. It's just basically a way to get around censorship in such as countries that are censoring people from
where the
getting to
government
certain
censors
sites.
you from going to other sites, Iran, China, places like that.
Yeah, so they have already gotten like over 100,000 downloads of this new thing, and
So it's a good
just
thing,
available
right?
on their torrent. Yeah, it's a great thing.
Seems like a good thing, right, Seth?
Yeah, no complaints.
I'm a little bit scared to use it myself, just because it is an open source platform.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
new.
Pirate Bay guys.
It's the Pirate Bay guys.
It's those Pirate Bay guys.
It could be everything built into
Do you
that
trust
I
them?
don't know about. But
Microsoft and Google are still fighting over YouTube, right?
The YouTube app.
YouTube app.
Go figure.
Microsoft's trying to get a YouTube app going. There's still no YouTube app. What's the issue here? I mean, is this the Clash of the Titans?
This is politics.
Politics.
I think this is very high-level corporate politics, and poor YouTube users on Windows Phone are getting the brunt of it. Yeah,
Right.
sad panda.
Yeah, sad panda. And then finally, let's talk about the MESHNET. The MESHNET. It's a new internet that hacktivists, according to this headline, on motherboard.vice.com, on the Vice site, that they want to basically create a new internet so that the NSA can't spy what we're doing on the old one. I mean, this is tilting at windmills, right, Shannon?
yeah, this is kind of crazy. I was really surprised to read this. I was like, oh, I guess it makes sense that hacktivists would want to build this, but who's going to get on it?
Right, who's
Just
going to use
A few people that want to stay anonymous, I guess. But you can do that on regular operating systems and browsers right now.
It's noise.
It's the Hyperloop for the internet.
It really is, and I think if you want to take it seriously, this is one of the most anti-internet things you could do.
Yeah.
The whole point of the internet is that everybody is connected, not that you have your own little fiefdom to be an echo chamber so everyone can pat you on the back.
And with that, we have no more time to pat each other or anybody else on the back. And that's all the stories we have for today. Thanks a lot, Shannon Morse. Thanks a lot, Seth Rosenblatt.
Thank you.
It's great to have you guys here. If you have any questions or anything, you can always leave comments or suggestions below. What's your opinion on the Hyperloop? What's your opinion on MESHNET? Let us know. We'll talk about it. Until next time, you're watching Downloaded.